making its move through the southeast Gulf of Mexico. So a large and dangerous storm. Again, the winds estimated 140 miles an hour. Winds dying down in the Keys, and people will be allowed to move back into the areas here as the system pulls away. But a very large and dangerous storm taking aim on the Texas coast. And the impacts could be felt as early as Thursday evening here, especially so Friday into Saturday. And as this system moves west, it does have the potential for quite a significant water rise, flooding rains, severe weather, and even points farther north, places like the Louisiana coast with a prolonged easterly flow here. You will be looking at water.
Well, about the history of Galveston, the famous storm of 1900, and the subsequent construction of the seawall there.
Well, good evening, Carl. People in this region are well aware of what heavy weather can do to this area, and we're standing right on a seawall as we speak, roughly 17 feet tall. Good for Cat 1, 2, and 3, but for a Category 4 storm and above, it does not provide the protection for Galveston or for Houston, for that matter, in terms of dealing with this very heavy weather. As a result, a number of people used the mild weather that we had today to make their getaway.
The exodus from Galveston, Texas started at sunrise.
Coastal Texans should not wait until late Thursday or early Friday to leave.
You are here, and it's at your risk that you stay here.
Many boarded up homes and businesses before leaving town. Thousands took advantage of emergency bus service and departed to shelters throughout the state. Residents like Dana Little are bound for Huntsville, Texas, about 2 hours inland.
We're going to be evacuees, not refugees.
Government officials here say the devastation caused by Hurricane Katrina convinced many people to leave.
We don't want to go through what they went through in New Orleans. I feel for those people.
Long lines of evacuation traffic jammed freeways throughout southeast Texas. The storm is expected to disrupt water and power service, so many made a last-minute trip to ATMs for emergency cash.
Well, we're trying to cash a bank check from here, but they saying they're out of money.
Area hospitals are also closing. Patients from the Shriners Burn Unit in Galveston are now heading to College Station, Texas, and hospitals in northern Louisiana and Ohio.
One of the region's largest employers is the medical facility run by the University of Texas. Today, hundreds of patients were evacuated from that site as well, along with hundreds of employees. They were given permission to leave and did so in what is now being dubbed one of the largest medical evacuations in state history. We're live tonight in Galveston, Texas. I'm Jim Weeder for the Weather Channel. Jennifer and Carl, back to you.
All right, Jim, it's great to see all those people leaving, all those people getting out of harm's way. But again, the evacuation's still going on right now. But what about some of those die-hard people? Are you finding any of them?
We did. We bumped into just a couple today, Jennifer. But quite frankly, the Katrina factor weighs heavily here. And by that, government officials are telling us, look, we are issuing this evacuation order now, and the fact is that because we had Katrina a few weeks ago, that is actually helping us. More people are actually listening to us because of what happened in Louisiana. And by the way, Jennifer and Carl, a number of people didn't really wait for that deadline at 6 p.m. Central. They were long gone hours before. The freeways out of here were absolutely jammed much of the day.
Yeah, we were wondering about that, weren't we, about the time frame when everybody's going to be getting out of town. All right, Jim, thanks so much. Again, from Galveston, and the evacuations are still going on. But we also have another story tonight. If it's not busy enough, we've got severe weather.
That's right. We've got some very active weather now in Minneapolis, St.
The strongest in the Atlantic Basin ever. Welcome to Hurricane Central. I'm Alexandra Steele.
And I'm Paul Goodlow. Now, Rita is now the third strongest hurricane on record in the Atlantic Basin, and residents in Louisiana and Texas should be watching this one closely from a distance.
And as you might expect, we have team coverage along the Gulf Coast. Storm tracker Jim Cantori is in Seabrook, meteorologist Stephanie Abrams is in Galveston, and our own hurricane expert Dr. Steve Lyons standing by in-house with his expert analysis. But first, hundreds of thousands are on the road, heeding the warnings and right now getting out of Rita's way. Let's go to you, Paul, with the latest.
Again, here's the latest, again, as of 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. This is a major hurricane here. Category 5 winds have actually gone up over the last couple of hours, 175-mile-per-hour sustained winds, and the forward speed has slowed down to 9 miles per hour, still moving on towards the west. And looking at this image, you can see it has actually just jogged slightly north of due west over the last several hours this evening. And one way to think about this storm is think of it as a large tornado. Typically with tornadoes, little to no advance warning. With hurricanes, a lot of advance warning. But we're talking about, in terms of hurricane force winds, 75 miles out on each side of the center. Tropical storm force winds 175 miles out. So we're talking the distance from driving from Brownsville to Austin. That's the width of tropical storm force winds right now with the storm system. It continues to push on towards the coast sometime late Friday into early Saturday morning. A good chunk of Texas is in that target zone for potential landfall of the eye. Alexandra?
All right, thanks, Paul. Well, we are tracking Rita as it moves through the Gulf of Mexico and takes aim on the Texas coast. Team coverage tonight with meteorologist Stephanie Abrams in Galveston and storm tracker Jim Cantori in Seabrook, Texas. And Jim, you know, in 1983 when we had Alicia, we didn't have a lot of buildup in those communities like we do now. Certainly that area much more vulnerable than at that time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look around Galveston Bay now, the urban sprawl, of course, is to the water, as we've seen in so many cases, not just here in Houston, but in so many cities. But, you know, you've got little communities that have popped up like Baytown, for example, LaPorte, Shore Acres, Seabrook, where I'm at tonight, Kemah, if you will. And all these areas, of course, have built up apartments, beautiful condominiums, all overlooking the beautiful water of Galveston Bay. Now, you start bringing up a storm surge of what potentially could be 20 feet, all those areas very, very vulnerable tonight. And each one of those communities, a lot of them have built marinas like this. I want to take you to the Kemah Marina, which is just over the bridge here behind me, and you can see all the boats just kind of stacked up in here. There are so many little marinas in and around Galveston Bay like this that are just stuffed full of boats. So if we get a direct hit from this storm, regardless of the fact that it may weaken, there's going to be tremendous damage to these boats. Probably a historic amount of damage, certainly to some of these marinas, no question about it. We got a chance to talk to a gentleman, and he's doing what he can to secure his boat.
I'm not taking any chances. I've been through two of them. I went through Alicia. I went through Betsy, the one that hit New Orleans when it went through Florida, 135-mile-an-hour winds. So I'm making every kind of preparation I can, and then I'm leaving. And if anybody wants advice, the problem is you get to the point, you say, okay, I want to go, you can't go. Don't mess around with it.
Yeah, it sounds familiar, doesn't it? Not too many people, you or I, know that have ever wanted to get snake bitten twice, and certainly a hurricane is a bad bite for many people just the first time. Well, folks, I want to talk a little bit with my colleague Stephanie Abrams, who's 25 miles to my south and east now. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have Stephanie this hour. Sorry about that, guys. Stephanie's been working hard for us all day. Again, the good news is this area obviously taking it very, very serious. You can see behind me here 146, busy with just about everything, even a tractor being taken out tonight with a lawnmower behind it. Guys, back to you.
Now, Jim, earlier you talked about it feeling really like chaos, and is that the case still?
Well, it was. I mean, rarely do we come into a town for our first night of coverage 3 days before a storm and everything's shutting down, including the hotel that we're at. I mean, we're very lucky to be able to stay there even tonight, but nothing's open. Walmart, Home Depot, all these places you count on to, even for us as live TV crews, to get our rations and to get supplies to be out of, you know, touch, if you will, with restaurants and whatnot for a few days. We couldn't even get in. So tonight, again, limited dinner. We had our last hot meal this afternoon, and, you know, we got what we could and are basically ready to deal with this thing over the next 4 or 5 days with very limited supplies. But, you know, I guess I can say this is a very good thing. I want people to take this seriously. I want people to close down and get out of harm's way, because quite frankly, when you look at that thing on the satellite and you hear Dr. Lyons talking about it, what a tremendous description, guys, huh? A tornado the size of the state of Georgia. What a description, what an analogy for a storm. But that is a monster when you think about it. Back to you.
Well, Jim, it's great to see people evacuating. See, looking at traffic behind you, compared to early in the evening, the traffic flow has really kind of crawled to a grinding halt right now.
Well, it is, Paul. Let's go up toward the Kemah Bridge. Again, this is 146 North coming out of Galveston County and through southeast Harris County, which is where I am. And occasionally over the bridge, you will see a little bit of a break. If we go up toward the bridge, you can see the cars moving a little bit, but they get stuck here at the light. But obviously, Paul and Alexander, since 2 o'clock this afternoon, we have been basically seeing this tremendous amount of traffic getting out of harm's way. And I can't think of anything but good news here. Back to you.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And let's check out this. 9 Category 4 landfalls in the U.S.
But never twice in the same year like this year. A record-breaking year.
Get out!